Marcus stood in the funeral home, staring at his parents' closed caskets, his throat tight with grief. The only two people who'd ever truly loved him, now gone in a senseless car accident. But his wife Emily wasn't crying beside him. She was texting, barely concealing her smirk. The moment they returned to their modest apartment, she dropped the bomb that shattered what remained of his world. "I'm sleeping with your best friend Jake, and I'm going to marry him. I want a divorce." She had no idea that Marcus's parents weren't just any parents. They were billionaires who'd hidden their fortune to teach him humility, and their lawyer was scheduled to read the will in 72 hours, revealing a $100 billion inheritance that would make Marcus one of the wealthiest men alive. Emily's cruel timing, delivered when he was most vulnerable, sparked something cold and calculating in Marcus's chest. What would a grieving son do when the woman who vowed to love him in sickness and in health chose his darkest hour to betray him? How would Emily react when she discovered the staggering fortune she'd just walked away from? And what revenge would a broken man with unlimited resources design for the wife and best friend who stabbed him in the back while his parents' bodies were still warm? The rain hammered against the chapel windows like thousands of tiny fists demanding entry. Marcus Bennett stood alone in the front row, his fingers gripping the smooth wood of the pew until his knuckles turned white. The caskets before him, polished mahogany, adorned with white roses, held the bodies of Thomas and Catherine Bennett, his parents, his anchors, his world. They'd been driving home from their anniversary dinner when a drunk driver crossed the median. The police said death was instantaneous. Marcus wished someone could promise him the same mercy. Behind him, perhaps 50 people filled the small chapel. Colleagues from the hardware store where his father had worked for 30 years. Members of his mother's book club. Neighbors who'd known the Bennetts as that nice, quiet couple who never caused trouble, never flaunted anything, lived simply in their modest two-bedroom house on Maple Street. Marcus had grown up thinking they were middle class, maybe lower middle class. His father drove a 15-year-old Toyota. His mother clipped coupons. They'd taught him the value of a dollar, the importance of hard work, the dignity in earning your own way. Emily sat beside him, but she might as well have been on another planet. Her fingers danced across her phone screen, the glow illuminating her face in the dim chapel light. Marcus caught glimpses of her texts, laughing emojis, inside jokes, plans for later. Once he would have asked who she was talking to. Once he would have cared, but grief had hollowed him out, left him numb to everything except the crushing weight of loss. They'd been married for 3 years, high school sweethearts who tied the knot right after graduation, full of dreams and promises. Marcus worked at his father's hardware store, learning the business from the ground up. Emily worked as a receptionist at a dental office. They lived in a cramped apartment above a Chinese restaurant, the smell of kung pao chicken permanently embedded in their furniture. It wasn't glamorous, but Marcus had been happy. He'd thought Emily was too. The signs had been there, he realized now. The late nights she claimed were work events, the new clothes she couldn't quite explain, the distance in her eyes when he kissed her, the way she flinched when he touched her phone. But he'd been too trusting, too busy helping his aging parents, too blind to see what was happening in his own marriage. The service ended with his mother's favorite hymn, something about grace and redemption. Marcus barely heard it. People filed past, offering condolences that blurred together into meaningless noise. Sorry for your loss. They were good people. They're in a better place now. Empty words that couldn't fill the void. Jake Thornton was among the mourners, standing near the back with red-rimmed eyes and a properly somber expression. Marcus's best friend since 3rd grade. When Jake had shared his lunch with Marcus after bullies had stolen his, they'd been inseparable, playing basketball, double dating, standing as best man at each other's weddings. Jake had married Lisa 2 years ago, a sweet woman who taught kindergarten. Marcus trusted Jake with his life. What a fool he'd been. They drove home in silence, Emily's phone buzzing constantly in her purse. The rain had intensified, sheets of water obscuring the road. Marcus gripped the steering wheel, navigating carefully, hyper-aware of every car around them. His parents had died on a road just like this. Life could end in an instant, he now knew. Everything could vanish in a heartbeat. Their apartment felt smaller than usual when they walked in, the walls pressing close. Marcus loosened his tie, moved toward the bedroom to change out of his funeral suit. But Emily's voice stopped him cold. "We need to talk." Something in her tone made him turn slowly. She stood by the door, arms crossed, her expression harder than he'd ever seen it. This wasn't his Emily, the girl who'd promised to love him forever. This was a stranger wearing her face. "Can it wait?" Marcus heard the exhaustion in his own voice. "I just buried my parents." "No, it can't wait." Emily took a breath, and what came next destroyed him more thoroughly than the news of his parents' death. "I'm sleeping with Jake. We've been together for 8 months. I'm in love with him, Marcus. Real love. Not this, whatever this is between us. I want a divorce. Jake's divorcing Lisa, too. We're getting married." The words hit like physical blows. Marcus actually stumbled backward, his hip catching the edge of the kitchen counter. For a moment, he couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what he'd just heard. Jake, his best friend. 8 months. While Marcus had been caring for his aging parents, working double shifts to save for the future Emily always talked about, she'd been in bed with Jake. "You're telling me this now?" Marcus's voice cracked. "My parents died 3 days ago. I buried them an hour ago. And you're telling me this now?" Emily shrugged, and that casual gesture, that complete lack of empathy, revealed the depths of her betrayal. Better to rip the Band-Aid off. "I'm moving in with Jake next week. His place is bigger anyway, nicer neighborhood. You can keep the apartment. I don't want anything except my clothes and the jewelry." Marcus thought of Jake's condo downtown, the one his friend had recently purchased with money from some tech startup investment. Jake had always been luckier than Marcus, or maybe just more ambitious. Marcus had been content at the hardware store, learning his father's trade. Jake had climbed the corporate ladder at a software company, networking and schmoozing his way to a 6-figure salary. "How long have you wanted out?" Marcus asked quietly. "Does it matter?" Emily pulled out her suitcase from the hall closet. Apparently, she'd planned this conversation, prepared for this moment. "We got married too young. People change. I changed. I need more than what you can give me, Marcus. Jake and I, we have chemistry. We want the same things, a real house, vacations, a life that matters. And what have I been giving you? What has our marriage been?" Emily paused, and for a fleeting second, Marcus thought he saw something like guilt cross her face. But it vanished quickly, replaced by cold determination. "A mistake, a youthful mistake, but I'm fixing it now." She disappeared into the bedroom, and Marcus heard drawers opening, clothes hangers scraping. His wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, was packing her things while his parents lay in the morgue awaiting burial. The timing was almost impressively cruel. Marcus sank onto the couch, his mind reeling. 8 months. She'd looked him in the eye every day for 8 months, kissed him, made love to him occasionally, all while she was with Jake. How many times had the three of them hung out together? Marcus, Emily, and Jake, with Marcus completely oblivious to what was happening behind his back? How many times had they laughed at him? His phone buzzed, a text from Gerald Hutchinson, his parents' lawyer. Marcus had met the man only twice, both times briefly when his parents had updated their wills. Thomas and Catherine had been private people, never discussing finances or future plans with Marcus. They'd taught him to be self-sufficient, to earn his own way. The text read, "Marcus, my deepest condolences. We need to meet regarding your parents' estate. Can you come to my office Friday at 2 p.m.? It's urgent. There are matters we must discuss." Marcus stared at the message. Estate? His parents had lived modestly, saved carefully, but he assumed there wasn't much to discuss. Maybe the house, probably worth $200,000 in the current market. Their life insurance policies, perhaps another $100,000 combined. Enough to cover funeral expenses and give Marcus a small cushion, but nothing life-changing. Emily emerged with 2 suitcases, her face flushed with the exertion of packing quickly. "I'll come back for the rest later. Jake's picking me up in 10 minutes. "Jake's coming here?" Marcus felt something hot and sharp pierce through his numbness. "You're having him pick you up? From our apartment? The day of my parents' funeral?" "Oh, don't be dramatic." Emily checked her reflection in the hallway mirror, fluffing her hair. "You'll survive. You're a survivor, Marcus. That's one thing I always liked about you. You just keep going, no matter what. It's also what made you boring." Jake's BMW pulled up outside, its horn chirping twice. Emily grabbed her suitcases, paused at the door, and looked back at Marcus one final time. In that moment, he memorized her face, the face he'd loved since he was 16, now twisted with impatience and barely concealed satisfaction. "You'll be fine," she said, as if she were doing him a favor. "In a year, you'll realize I did us both a service. You can find someone who wants your simple little life, someone who doesn't dream bigger." Then she was gone, her footsteps echoing down the stairs, the door slamming with a finality that reverberated through the empty apartment. Marcus sat in the silence, surrounded by the remnants of his life. Photos on the wall showed younger, happier versions of himself and Emily, wedding pictures, anniversary dinners, a trip to the beach. All lies now, or at least built on foundations that had crumbled. His phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from Jake. "I'm sorry, man. I never meant for it to happen. Emily and I just connected. You know how it is." No, Marcus thought. I don't know how it is. I don't know how you betray someone you called brother. I don't know how you sleep with your best friend's wife while his parents are dying. I don't know how you destroy someone's entire world and then say you're sorry like it's a minor inconvenience. He didn't respond. Instead, he sat in the darkness as rain continued to fall outside, wondering how his life had collapsed so completely in the span of 72 hours. His parents were dead. His wife had left him for his best friend. He was completely, utterly alone. But Gerald Hutchinson's text glowed on his phone screen. Friday at 2 p.m., matters to discuss. Urgent. Marcus had no idea that in 48 hours, everything would change again. But this time, the change would be in his favor. Friday afternoon arrived with cruel sunshine, the kind of bright, cheerful weather that felt like mockery after the week Marcus had endured. He'd called in sick to work, unable to face the concerned looks and awkward condolences from co-workers who didn't know about Emily yet. The apartment felt haunted, every corner holding memories of his former life. He'd slept on the couch, unable to enter the bedroom where his marriage had died. Gerald Hutchinson's office occupied the top floor of a sleek glass building downtown, far fancier than Marcus had expected. His father's lawyer should have worked in a strip mall office, not here among wealth management firms and investment banks. Marcus rode the elevator up, his reflection in the mirrored walls showing a man who'd aged a decade in a week. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His suit, the same one from the funeral, hung loose on his frame. He'd barely eaten since Tuesday. The receptionist, an elegant woman in her 50s, greeted him warmly. "Mr. Bennett, Mr. Hutchinson is expecting you. Please follow me." She led him through a corridor lined with expensive art, into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Gerald Hutchinson stood from behind a massive desk, extending his hand. He was perhaps 60, with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see through people. "Marcus, thank you for coming. Please sit." Hutchinson gestured to a leather chair. "Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "I'm fine." Marcus sat, confused by the formality. "Your text said it was urgent?" "Yes." Hutchinson settled into his chair, opening a thick folder on his desk. "Marcus, how much did your parents tell you about their finances?" "Not much. They were private about money. I knew Dad worked at Reynolds Hardware for 30 years. Mom was a librarian. They lived simply, saved what they could. I assume the house is paid off, maybe some life insurance?" Hutchinson's expression shifted into something Marcus couldn't quite read. "Your parents were extremely private, yes, but not for the reasons you think." He slid a document across the desk. "Marcus, your father didn't just work at Reynolds Hardware. He owned it. He bought the company 28 years ago." Marcus stared at the paper, not comprehending. "What?" "Thomas Bennett purchased Reynolds Hardware in 1997 for $2 million. He kept his role as general manager, never told anyone he was the owner. Over the years, he quietly expanded, purchasing 3 more hardware stores across the state. The business currently generates approximately $8 million in annual profit." The words weren't making sense. Marcus's father had worked the floor, helped customers find the right screws, mixed paint, cut lumber. He'd come home tired every night, his hands calloused and rough. That's impossible. We lived in a tiny house. We never had money for. Your parents chose to live modestly, Hutchinson interrupted gently. It was intentional. They wanted to raise you with strong values, teach you the worth of hard work. But Marcus, the hardware stores were just the beginning. He pulled out more documents, spreading them across the desk like cards in a magic trick. Your mother, Catherine, inherited a significant trust from her grandmother in 1985. Rather than spend it, she invested it, wisely, carefully, conservatively. Over 40 years, through compound interest and smart asset allocation, that trust grew substantially. Marcus's mouth had gone dry. How substantially? Combined with the hardware business and their other investments, your parents' estate is worth approximately $97 billion. The number hung in the air. Impossible. Absurd. Marcus actually laughed, a sharp bark of sound. That's not possible. Billion? You mean million, maybe. Billion. Hutchinson's face remained serious. Your mother had a particular genius for investment. She identified emerging technologies early, invested in companies when they were startups. Apple in 1980, Microsoft in 1986, Amazon in 1997, Google in 2004. She held these investments through every crash, every correction. The returns were extraordinary. Marcus felt dizzy. The office tilted around him. Why didn't they tell me? Because they wanted you to become yourself, not the person wealth might have made you. They watched too many wealthy families destroy their children with money. Thomas worked at the hardware store to stay grounded, to show you the value of labor. Catherine volunteered at the library for the same reason. They planned to tell you on your 30th birthday. Hutchinson's voice softened with genuine sadness. They didn't expect to die at 62. $97 billion. Marcus repeated it, testing the words. They still didn't feel real. That would make me one of the wealthiest people in the country. Yes, there are conditions, of course. Your parents established a trust structure to minimize tax liability and ensure responsible management. You'll have full control at 35, but until then, a board of trustees will help manage the assets. However, you have immediate access to $5 billion in liquid assets. The rest will be managed according to your parents' wishes. Marcus thought of Emily packing her bags. I need more than what you can give me. He thought of Jake, texting his hollow apology. You know how it is. He thought of their pitying expressions, their certainty that they were trading up, moving on to better things. They had no idea. Neither of them had any idea. When does this become public? Marcus asked, his voice strange in his own ears. That's up to you. We can file the estate paperwork quietly, keep it out of the press, or we can be transparent. Given the size of the estate, it will eventually become news, but we can control the timing. Marcus stood, walking to the window. Below, people hurried along sidewalks, caught up in their small concerns and daily dramas. Somewhere down there, Emily was probably with Jake, celebrating their new life together, planning their future, congratulating themselves on escaping Marcus's mediocre existence. I need time to think, Marcus said. This is overwhelming, Hutchinson finished. Of course. Take the weekend. We'll meet again Monday to discuss next steps. In the meantime, I'm having $10 million transferred to your personal account. Just a small advance for immediate needs. Consider it walking around money. Walking around money. $10 million. More money than Marcus had earned in his entire life, described as pocket change. Hutchinson stood, extending his hand again. Your parents loved you very much, Marcus. Every decision they made was to give you the best possible life. I hope you'll honor their memory by using this wealth wisely. Marcus shook the lawyer's hand, nodded, and left the office in a daze. The elevator ride down felt like descending from another world. By the time he reached the parking lot, his phone showed a new text from his bank. Deposit, $10,000, $10 million. Just the beginning, just the advance. He sat in his car, hands trembling on the steering wheel. Emily had left him thinking he was a nobody, a hardware store employee with no prospects. She'd traded him for Jake, for a bigger condo and a comfortable salary. She'd timed her betrayal for maximum cruelty, striking when he was most vulnerable, most broken. But she didn't know. Neither of them knew. Marcus started the engine, a plan beginning to form in his mind. Not revenge exactly, nothing so crude, but justice perhaps. A lesson, a reminder that you can't judge a person's worth by their current circumstances, can't discard loyalty and love for material upgrades. His phone buzzed. Another text from Emily. Jake and I are having a party next weekend to celebrate our engagement. You don't have to come, obviously, but I wanted you to hear it from me. We're registered at Bloomingdale's if you want to send a gift, LOL. Marcus stared at the message, at the casual cruelty of it, the mocking laughter. An engagement party. They'd been together 8 months, known each other for years, and couldn't wait even a week after Marcus's parents' funeral to celebrate. He typed a response, "Congratulations. I'll definitely send a gift. Something you'll never forget." Then he called Gerald Hutchinson back. "I need your help with something," Marcus said when the lawyer answered. "I need to move quickly, and I need to be smart about it. Can you meet me tomorrow?" "Of course," Hutchinson replied. "What do you need?" "Everything," Marcus said. "I need to know everything about Jake Thornton's business, his assets, his vulnerabilities, and I need to buy a company." The next 3 days passed in a blur of meetings, paperwork, and revelations. Gerald Hutchinson proved to be more than just a lawyer. He was a strategist, a confidant, and a guide into the world Marcus had suddenly inherited. They met in Hutchinson's office Saturday morning, joined by a team of financial advisors, accountants, and investigators who'd worked with Marcus's parents for decades. "Let's start with Jake Thornton," Hutchinson said, opening a file. "Gerald, give us what you found." A younger man, one of the investigators, pulled up a presentation on the conference room screen. Jake Thornton, age 28, currently employed as Regional Sales Director at Apex Software Solutions, salary $180,000 annually, plus bonuses averaging $40,000. He purchased his condo 2 years ago for $450,000, currently owes $380,000 on the mortgage, has $80,000 in investment accounts, $25,000 in savings, $15,000 in credit card debt. Marcus absorbed the information. Jake's life, reduced to numbers. Comfortable but not wealthy, stretched thin by the condo purchase and his lifestyle. His company, Apex Software Solutions, the investigator continued, mid-size firm, about 200 employees, specializes in customer relationship management systems. Annual revenue around $50 million. Profitable but not growing aggressively. The owners have been quietly looking for an exit strategy. "How quietly?" Marcus asked. "Very. It hasn't hit the market officially, but our sources indicate they'd entertain serious offers. They're tired, ready to cash out." Hutchinson leaned forward. "Marcus, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking Jake's entire life depends on his job at Apex. His condo, his lifestyle, his ability to provide the future Emily wants. It all rests on that salary." Marcus felt cold saying it, calculating. Was this who he was now? What would it cost to buy Apex? The financial advisor, a woman named Sharon, consulted her notes. Based on comparable sales and their financials, probably $80 to $100 million. It's small enough to acquire quickly, large enough to matter. "Buy it," Marcus said, quietly. "Use whatever corporate structure keeps my name out of it. I don't want anyone to know I'm involved until I'm ready." Hutchinson nodded approvingly. "Consider it done. What else?" "Emily mentioned they're registered at Bloomingdale's. Can we find out what they registered for?" The investigator grinned. "Already pulled it. Expensive taste. They're asking for Waterford crystal, Le Creuset cookware, fret linens. Total registry value around $15,000. Marcus thought for a moment. Buy everything on the registry, everything. Have it delivered to their engagement party with a card that says, "Wishing you all the happiness you deserve." Sharon raised an eyebrow. "That's generous given the circumstances." "Oh, I'm not done," Marcus assured her. "What about Jake's ex-wife, Lisa? Lisa Thornton, kindergarten teacher, devastated by the divorce. She's living with her sister currently, struggling financially. Jake left her for Emily without much warning." Marcus felt a pang of kinship with Lisa. Another casualty of Jake and Emily's selfishness. Set up a trust for her, $2 million structured to provide income without overwhelming her. Make it anonymous. She shouldn't know it came from me. Hutchinson made notes. You're building quite the strategy here. I'm just getting started. Marcus stood, pacing to the window. Below, the city sprawled in all directions, full of people living their lives, unaware that one of them had just become unimaginably wealthy. I need a new place to live. Something appropriate. I have a real estate agent who specializes in luxury properties, Sharon offered. What are you looking for? Something that makes Jake's condo look like a closet. Something in his neighborhood, actually. I want to be close. Marcus smiled without humor. And I need a car. Something noticeable. By Monday, Marcus had purchased a penthouse 3 blocks from Jake's condo for $8.5 million. Cash, no mortgage. 2,500 square feet of marble and glass with panoramic city views and amenities that included a rooftop terrace, wine cellar, and private elevator. The furniture alone cost $400,000, curated by an interior designer who transformed the space into sophisticated luxury in 48 hours. The car arrived Tuesday, a midnight blue Bugatti Chiron, $3.5 million, one of only 500 in the world. Marcus had never been a car person, but he understood symbols. This car was a symbol. Wednesday morning, Apex Software Solutions received an acquisition offer from Bennett Holdings, a newly formed corporation with mysterious backing. The owners, shocked by the generous terms, $120 million, well above market value, with retention bonuses for key employees, accepted by Friday. Marcus now owned the company where Jake worked. Jake just didn't know it yet. Emily's engagement party was Saturday night, held at a trendy restaurant downtown. Marcus didn't attend, but he sent his gift. Every single item from their registry delivered in a mountain of boxes that took 3 restaurant staff members to carry in. The card was simple, wishing you all the happiness you deserve. Marcus. He imagined Emily's face when she saw it, her confusion. How did broke, abandoned Marcus afford $15,000 in wedding gifts? Where did he get the money? Let her wonder. Sunday morning, Marcus woke in his new penthouse, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. His phone showed several missed calls from Emily, voicemails he didn't bother listening to. Whatever she wanted to say didn't matter anymore. That chapter of his life was closed. Gerald Hutchinson called at 9. I have news about your parents' other holdings. Are you sitting down? I'm in my new place, making coffee in a machine that cost more than my old car. I think I can handle it. Your parents owned commercial real estate across 15 states. Strip malls, office buildings, apartment complexes. The total portfolio is worth approximately $4 billion and generates $200 million in annual rental income. Marcus nearly dropped his phone. Even after the bombshell about the $97 billion, each new revelation stunned him. His parents, the quiet couple on Maple Street, had been real estate moguls. There's more, Hutchinson continued. They established charitable foundations, education, medical research, poverty relief. They've been anonymously funding scholarships, building hospitals, supporting communities for decades. The foundations hold another $8 billion in assets. Who's been running all this? Marcus asked. Someone had to manage it while my parents pretended to be middle class. A team of professionals your parents hired and trusted completely. They're all still in place, ready to work with you. Your parents were brilliant at delegation. They set up systems, hired the best people, and let them excel. Marcus thought of his father at the hardware store, patiently teaching customers about different types of nails, his mother at the library helping children find books. They could have been on yachts, in mansions, living ostentatious lives. Instead, they'd chosen quiet purpose, teaching their son by example. I want to meet the team, Marcus said. All of them. I need to understand what I'm inheriting. Monday morning, 9 a.m., I'll arrange it. Marcus spent the rest of Sunday exploring his new neighborhood, driving his new car, getting accustomed to his new reality. People stared at the Bugatti, taking pictures, pointing. He was anonymous in his wealth now, but that wouldn't last. Eventually, someone would connect the dots, realize who he was. He needed to be ready for that moment. Monday morning's meeting revealed the full scope of his inheritance. 12 people sat around Hutchinson's conference table. The professionals who'd helped his parents build and maintain their fortune, investment managers, real estate specialists, foundation directors, tax attorneys. Each presented their piece of the empire. The hardware stores, 4 locations, $8 million annual profit, well-managed and growing steadily. The investment portfolio, $65 billion in stocks, bonds, and alternative investments, carefully diversified across sectors and geographies. The real estate, $4 billion in commercial properties, fully leased, professionally managed. The foundations, $8 billion dedicated to causes his parents cared about, already having transformed thousands of lives. Cash and equivalents, $12 billion in liquid assets, earning interest in various accounts. And now Apex Software Solutions, Marcus's first personal acquisition, purchased for revenge but requiring actual management. Gentlemen, ladies, Marcus addressed the group, my parents built something extraordinary, and they did it with integrity and purpose. I intend to honor that. But I also need your help with something personal. He explained the situation, Emily's betrayal, Jake's treachery, the timing of it all. He didn't hide his wounds or pretend to be above petty revenge. These people had loved his parents, had worked with them for years. They deserved honesty. When he finished, the room was silent. Then Maria, the head of the real estate division, spoke. What do you need from us? Jake Thornton works at a company I now own. I want to restructure it, make it more successful, but in ways that don't benefit him personally. I want him to watch the company thrive while his position becomes obsolete. Can we do that ethically? Legally? The team exchanged glances. Then David, the chief counsel, nodded. We can absolutely restructure Apex. If Jake's position becomes redundant through legitimate business improvements, that's not revenge. That's good management. We'd have to offer him severance, follow all employment laws, but yes, we can make changes that don't include him in the future. What about Emily? Sharon asked. What's the plan there? Marcus had thought about this carefully. Nothing illegal, nothing cruel, but she chose Jake because she thought he offered more than I could. She valued money over loyalty. I want her to see what she walked away from. I want her to understand the magnitude of her mistake. Understood, Hutchinson said. How do you want to reveal yourself? I don't know yet, but I'll know when the moment's right. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus transformed. He hired a personal trainer, upgraded his wardrobe, got a better haircut. Not because he needed to impress anyone, but because he needed to feel like the person he was becoming. The grief over his parents remained a constant ache, but it was joined now by purpose. Apex Software Solutions underwent rapid transformation. Marcus's team brought in consultants, identified inefficiencies, and restructured departments. Jake's position as regional sales director was eliminated in the reorganization, replaced by a new team-based approach that actually improved sales while reducing redundancy. Jake received 6 months severance, generous by industry standards, and a polite letter thanking him for his service. Marcus watched from a distance as Jake scrambled, his comfortable life suddenly precarious. The condo payment loomed large without a $220,000 annual income. Emily, planning a wedding, began to worry visibly about finances. Then came the moment Marcus had been waiting for. 3 weeks after the Apex restructuring, Emily called him. Marcus considered not answering, then changed his mind. This would be interesting. Marcus, it's me. I know. What do you want, Emily? She hesitated and he could hear stress in her voice. I need to talk to you about the gifts you sent, about everything. Can we meet? Please? Why would we meet? Because Jake lost his job and we're trying to figure things out. And those gifts you sent, Marcus, they were so expensive. How did you afford them? Did you get another job? Did something happen? Marcus smiled, looking out over the city from his penthouse terrace. You could say something happened, yes. Can we meet tomorrow? Our old coffee shop? No, Marcus said flatly. I'm done with that place, but I'll meet you. Come to my new address. He gave her the penthouse location, then hung up before she could respond. Let her wonder. Let her worry. Tomorrow, Emily would learn exactly what she'd walked away from. Emily arrived at Marcus's building Tuesday afternoon, her expression confused as she studied the gleaming glass tower. Marcus watched from his penthouse window as she entered the lobby, spoke to the doorman, and visibly startled when directed to the private elevator. He'd told security to send her up. The elevator opened directly into his penthouse, a feature that cost extra but that Marcus found immensely satisfying. Emily stepped out, her eyes widening as she took in the space. The marble floors, the designer furniture, the art on the walls, the panoramic windows showcasing the city. What? She turned in a slow circle. Marcus, what is this? My home. He stood by the window, backlit by afternoon sun. You said you wanted to talk? This is your home? Emily's voice climbed an octave. How can this be your home? You work at a hardware store. This place must cost, I don't even know, millions? 8.5 million actually, plus another 400,000 for furnishing. The art is on loan from a gallery. I'm still deciding what I want to purchase permanently. Emily gaped at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Marcus, stop it. What's going on? Did you win the lottery? Rob a bank? She laughed, but it sounded panicked. Where did you get the money for those wedding gifts? For this place? Is that a Bugatti in the parking garage? Yes, that's mine too, the blue one. This isn't real. Emily backed toward the elevator. You're messing with me. This is some kind of joke. Marcus crossed to a side table, picked up a folder Hutchinson had prepared. It's not a joke. My parents left me money when they died. Quite a lot of money, as it turns out. How much is quite a lot? $97 billion. The number hung between them. Emily's face went white, then red, then white again. She reached for the wall to steady herself. That's not possible. It is, actually. My parents were very wealthy. They hid it from everyone, including me, because they wanted me to grow up normal. They were going to tell me on my 30th birthday, but they died first. Marcus held out the folder. This is the documentation, if you don't believe me. Estate papers, bank statements, asset valuations. Emily took the folder with shaking hands. She opened it, scanned the first page, flipped to the second, the third. Her hands shook harder with each page. Oh my God, Marcus. Now you understand. You're a billionaire. She looked up at him, her eyes wild. You were always a billionaire. When I met you, when we got married, when you left me for Jake, yes, I was always a billionaire. I just didn't know it yet. Emily sank onto his $40,000 sofa, still clutching the folder. This can't be happening. When did you find out? The day you left. Well, 3 days later, actually. My parents' lawyer told me on Friday, you moved out on Tuesday. The timeline registered and Emily's face crumbled. No. Yes. Marcus felt no satisfaction in her distress, only a cold kind of justice. You left me thinking I was a hardware store employee with no prospects. You chose Jake because he had a nice condo and a comfortable salary. You wanted more than what you thought I could give you. Marcus, I didn't know. How could I have known? You couldn't. That's the point. You judged me by my current circumstances, not by who I was as a person. You decided I wasn't enough, that you deserved better, and you left, on the day of my parents' funeral no less. That timing, Emily, that cruelty. Do you understand what you did? Tears streamed down Emily's face, mascara leaving dark tracks. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But Marcus, we can fix this. We haven't filed the divorce papers yet. We can tear them up, pretend none of this happened. I still love you. I've always loved you. No, Marcus said quietly. You loved the idea of me, maybe, the high school sweetness of it. But you didn't love me enough to stick around when things got hard. You didn't love me enough to grieve with me. You loved Jake more, or at least you loved what Jake could give you more. I was wrong. People make mistakes. You can't tell me this doesn't change anything. Emily stood, desperation making her shrill. Marcus, we can have everything now. Everything we ever dreamed of. A real house, travel, security. I can quit my job. We can start a family. This is what I always wanted for us. No, it's what you wanted for yourself. There's a difference. Marcus moved to the window, unable to look at her. You know what's funny? I would have shared all of this with you. If you'd stayed, if you'd been there for me when I found out, I would have included you in every decision. We would have figured out this new life together. But you chose to leave before you knew. You showed me exactly who you are. Please, Emily crossed to him, reached for his hand. He pulled away. Marcus, please. I know I hurt you. I know the timing was awful, but I'm still your wife. We took vows, for better or worse. Can't this be the better part? You already chose the worst part, Emily. When I was grieving, when I needed you most, you chose Jake. You don't get to undo that now. What about Jake? The question came out small and scared. Did you get him fired? I bought the company where he worked. My team restructured it. His position became redundant. He received fair severance. Marcus turned to face her. I didn't do anything illegal or unethical. I just made business decisions that didn't prioritize him. Much like you made personal decisions that didn't prioritize me. You're punishing us. No, I'm moving on. There's a difference. Emily's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and Marcus saw Jake's name on the screen. He's wondering where I am, what I'm doing. You should go. Tell him whatever you want. Tell him the truth, that you left a billionaire for a regional sales director. Tell him that the modest, boring life you wanted to escape was actually an illusion. Tell him that you made the worst decision of your life based on incomplete information. Marcus walked to the elevator, pressed the button, or tell him nothing. It doesn't matter to me anymore. Marcus, wait. Please, just think about this. Think about what we had. The elevator arrived, doors opening with a quiet ding. I have thought about it. I've thought about how you texted through my parents' funeral, how you packed your bags while they lay in the morgue, how you betrayed me with my best friend for 8 months. I've thought about all of it, Emily, and I've decided that some mistakes don't deserve forgiveness. This is revenge. Her voice turned hard. You're punishing me because I hurt your ego. My ego? Marcus laughed, a bitter sound. You destroyed my life at my lowest moment. But no, this isn't revenge. Revenge would be malicious. This is just truth. You wanted a wealthier man, a bigger life. I'm simply showing you the life you gave up. What you do with that knowledge is your choice. Emily stepped into the elevator, her face a mask of devastation. Just before the doors closed, she said, You've changed. The old Marcus would have forgiven me. You're right, Marcus agreed. The old Marcus would have. But you killed the old Marcus when you left. This is who remains. The doors closed and she was gone. Marcus stood in his empty penthouse, surrounded by luxury that felt hollow. He'd won if this was winning. Emily knew what she'd lost. Jake knew his comfortable life was over. Marcus had his revenge, his justice, his lesson taught. So why did he feel so empty? His phone rang. Gerald Hutchinson. Marcus answered, grateful for the distraction. Marcus, I have someone I'd like you to meet. Her name is Anna Chen. She runs a nonprofit that helps children in foster care. Your mother was one of her biggest donors, though Anna never knew who was funding her organization. I thought you might want to continue that legacy. Marcus looked around his penthouse, at all the money could buy, and thought of his parents, working their humble jobs, living their quiet lives, while secretly transforming communities through strategic philanthropy. They'd had wealth beyond measure, but chose purpose over pleasure. Yeah, Marcus said, I'd like that very much. When can we meet? Tomorrow morning. And Marcus, your parents would be proud of how you're handling this. You're honoring them by not letting the money corrupt you. After hanging up, Marcus stood at his window as the sun set, painting the city in golden amber. Somewhere out there, Emily was telling Jake about the fortune she'd walked away from. Somewhere they were realizing the magnitude of their mistake. Somewhere they were suffering. But Marcus found he didn't care as much as he thought he would. The revenge he'd imagined tasted bitter now that he'd achieved it. Emily and Jake were yesterday's problem. His parents were gone, and no amount of money could bring them back. But their legacy remained. Billions of dollars waiting to do good in the world, to help people, to make a difference. Maybe that was the real lesson. Maybe his parents had hidden their wealth not just to teach him humility, but to ensure he'd appreciate it when it came, to make sure he'd understand the difference between having money and being defined by it. Marcus didn't want to be the bitter billionaire who destroyed his ex-wife out of spite. He wanted to be someone his parents would recognize, would admire. Someone who used extraordinary resources for extraordinary good. Tomorrow he'd meet Anna Chen. He'd learn about foster children who needed help, communities that needed support, problems that money could solve. He'd step into his parents' shoes and continue their hidden work. But tonight, he allowed himself to grieve. For his parents, for his marriage, for the simpler life he'd lost. Tomorrow would bring new purpose. Tonight was for mourning what could never be recovered. The city lights flickered on below, millions of them, each one representing a life, a story, a person with dreams and struggles. Marcus was now wealthy beyond measure, but he was also alone, untethered, trying to find his place in a world that had transformed overnight. His phone buzzed one final time, a text from an unknown number. "This is Lisa, Jake's ex-wife. I received an anonymous trust that changed my life. I don't know who sent it, but thank you. Whoever you are, you saved me when I was drowning. I'll pay it forward, I promise." Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile since his parents died. Maybe revenge wasn't about punishing the guilty. Maybe it was about helping the innocent. Maybe his parents' greatest lesson was this: wealth isn't about what you can buy for yourself. It's about what you can do for others. He typed a response. "You owe me nothing, but yes, pay it forward. That's all any of us can do." Then he deleted the text thread and looked back out at the city. Tomorrow would come with new challenges, new responsibilities, new purposes. But tonight, standing in his penthouse with the weight of billions on his shoulders, Marcus Bennett finally understood what his parents had been trying to teach him all along. Wealth wasn't freedom, purpose was, and he just inherited both.